Hello everyone, how's it going? Hope everybody's doing well. I have been racking my brain in order to find this week's topic for the podcast, but honestly, I could not think of anything. I don't know why, but nothing has been intriguing me enough to create a whole episode about this week. So instead, I'm going to do a really quick favorite recent reads of sort of the past 3 months. So anyway, let's get it started. As I already mentioned, I'm going to do my favorite books of the past 3 months from January to March. I have read a total of about 10 books so far. It was so hard to try to choose books. I was trying to do maybe my favorite fiction and then nonfiction books, so one and one, and I could not choose just one, so I decided to do two for each. Okay, first we're gonna do fiction because I know people like fiction the most, so we're gonna do fiction first. And the first book is Sula by Toni Morrison. This was actually February's book club pick. I really did not think that I would love Sula as much. First of all, I just want to talk about the writing because it's one of some of the best writing I have ever read. Toni Morrison is such an amazing writer. I really want to read all of her books now, genuinely super interested in all of her work, and I cannot wait to check them all out. But other than just the amazing writing, she just has a way of being so descriptive that captures this scene so well and so perfectly. I also love the dialogue in this book. I think that usually with other books, when they have a dialogue, I'm always who the hell speaks like that? No one actually speaks like this. But with this book specifically, it was the dialogue felt so realistic and so real. And so when I was reading, I'm oh my god, I can not only picture the scene really well because it's so well written, but also I can picture the dialogue really well, and I do think that is extremely rare. Also, it was rather dark. There were multiple times where I had to reread the scene multiple times because I'm there's no way that just happened. I just must have understood it wrong, and I would reread it and be oh, I did not misunderstand this. This is genuinely what just happened. Wow. For those who don't know, I'm going to give a quick sort of summary. It follows a friendship between Nell and Sula, who grew up in a fictional town in Ohio. It was nicknamed The Bottom, despite being on top of a valley where the residents of this specific town are predominantly all black. So yeah, that's why they called it The Bottom. It's racism. Yeah. This book is essentially challenging binary thinking, where there is no evil or good. All the characters were capable of both good and evil, and the author truly pushes you to apply nuance that we usually lack, especially I feel in times like this. Make sense of someone's position. Are they good people? Are they bad people? But this book essentially is trying to show you that no one is a good person and no one is a bad person. Everyone is capable of both good and evil. And it's essentially playing upon sort of the yin and yang. It's a yin and yang concept, how in every good there's bad and every bad there's good. So yeah, it requires a lot of nuance in order to read this book, because kind of understand why each character does what they do. Also explores the idea of how you're often a result of your upbringing and also your environment and things that happen to you. And so things that happen to you throughout your life will essentially affect who you are as a person, affect the way you see things and the way you live your life. Try to categorize things. We're very much obsessed with labels. We're obsessed with categorizing things. Oh, I'm a Virgo, I'm a Scorpio, I'm etc. etc. We constantly want to specify who we are as people and to put essentially a label on that. Good person, bad person, morally good, morally bad. And challenging essentially I feel thinking that is very, very predominant and I feel Western civilizations, where there is very much a kind of purity politics. So I feel this book essentially is constantly fighting against that and trying to get you to apply nuance and to view people not categorized versions of themselves, but rather as human beings who are capable of multitudes and capable of doing a lot of things all at once. Now, when I finished this book, I think I was so confused. I was like, oh, I don't know if I understood this book properly, because I felt like I was kind of confused. But then I watched Crash Course with John Green, and I realized that I actually did understand that there was some stuff that I actually did not pick up on. It's really cool, because there are some things I feel like maybe it's like you have to be from there to understand what that is. But yeah, there were a few things that I did not pick up on that John Green talked about. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Wow. But I feel like I understood the general concept of the book. And it is the type of those books that kind of grows on you. So like you will continue to think about this book for a while. Like when I first finished it as well, I gave it not a lower rating. I still thought it was a really good book, but I think I gave it like an 8.5 out of 10. And as time went on and as I thought about it more and more, I'm like, oh no, that was like a solid like 9.5 out of 10. Like, you know, it's such a good book and it's really short. So if you're looking for something that's really good and quick, it's really, really good book. All right, the second book is also a fictional book that has become a favorite of mine. And I do have the physical book, but I actually don't have it on me right now because I did lend it to my sister so she can read it. But it's Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. Listen, I do not know how to say her last name. I'm so sorry. But this book is magnificent, and I do not use that word lightly, okay? It is a murder mystery set in a village in Poland on top of like a mountain. This village is usually empty in the winter, for the most part, you know, because of like the extreme weather. It's like just really, really cold, and a lot of people cannot handle that, so they go into the city during the winter and then they come back up during the summer, except for a few people who remain in the village regardless of the weather. Now, our lead character is one of those people, and she and a few of her neighbors kind of remain throughout winter, and then suddenly some of these people who kind of live in that village start dying, and they're murdered in a very mysterious way that could be an accident but could be someone murdering them. And our lead character is very much convinced that it is being done by animals as punishment, because a lot of these men tend to be either poachers or they tend to have committed really horrible crimes against animals and abuses against animals and nature. So she's convinced that it is nature basically punishing them for doing those things. This book, it's a really interesting book that is essentially discussing politics and animal rights. The ending is insanely good. Like, wow. And that's like my favorite part of this whole book. The writing style is really good. You can easily read through it. There's a lot of, I feel like, filler moments, but I feel like they are building up, but also giving us clues to what is going on. So I do think it's still really, really good. While I was reading that, I had two theories, okay, of like who did it, right? What's going on? And one of them, to me, felt extremely far-fetched. I'm like, there is no way this is the actual thing that happened. So I always like stuck to my other theory, you know, but it would be so insane if the author does like this other theory, because it's so far-fetched. Let me tell you what, the author delivers, okay? And I can't say much. I can't tell you anything other than that, because if I speak too much about this book, I will ruin it for you, okay? So I highly recommend you read it and you see, and I want to say, if you guys like actually pick up on it, because I do think it's such a really good book. It's a really, really good book. Highly recommend. It's a masterpiece. And also this book is sort of also like Sula. It is in a way like playing with morality and good or bad in a way. It's a really good book. I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, if you read it, let me know if you picked up on on who did it. But yeah, let's move on. We're gonna enter the nonfiction books, and my favorite nonfiction book is Women, Race, and Class by Angela Y. Davis. So essentially, this book is explores the intersection between, well, women, race, and class. Angela in this book introduces the concept that is very well known in modern feminism, but back in the day this was like extremely legendary, which is basically intersectionality. Now, first of all, I just want to say the writing, amazing. Usually nonfiction books, because I do read quite a bit of nonfiction books, the information is very valuable, very important, but the writing style tends to be like very dry and boring, so it does take quite a while for me to get through a book. But this one is so good. This is both educational and also very well written, interesting read at the same time. I also feel like it's also extremely accessible as a non-English speaker. I felt like this book can be easily read by people, even those who are not as fluent, and they can still very much understand the concepts really well. So yeah, I do think that that's an amazing feat. There are a few words that I didn't know, but regardless of that, like, it was not hard to read. So I do think this is a really easy book. I feel like this book should be required reading. Like, literally everybody should read this book. This book has taught me so much, but it also helped me understand why, as a Middle Eastern woman, I had some issues with sort of Western liberal mainstream feminism, and it's because it lacks nuance and it rarely ever discusses the very, very, very important conversations about class and race and how that affects women and how that affects feminism as well. So it taught me a lot about the history between slavery and also sort of women's rights, like early women's rights in America. A lot of these things that I actually didn't know about. It's also so interesting. There's so many things here talked about that I find very interesting. Like, for example, how slaves back in the day, like women and male slaves, were viewed easily as productive as each other, and not one was perceived as more productive and more like physically capable than the other. And I do think that it's very interesting that now we kind of see women and men are very different physical strengths, when in reality, I do think that when working, women and men tend to have very similar physical strengths. Yeah, there's a lot of things in here. This is like just one on top of my head because I read this back in January, so it's been a while. But there were so many things talked about in this book that I absolutely loved. Things that I highlighted, I wrote notes, like, because this book was just like, it was so interesting. It was so good. It was so well written. I don't know. I highly recommend, you guys. It's such an amazing book. All right, the second favorite nonfiction book of mine I have read is also another staple in feminist literature, which is Caliban and the Witch by Silvia Federici. I hope that's how it's pronounced. I mean, it's Italian. I think it's right. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, regardless, I came into this book not fully agreeing with the premise of it. Sylvia hypothesizes that patriarchy, specifically that women should remain in the house and the men are the ones who are supposed to work and receive money for salaries, etc., is not just a byproduct of capitalism, but it is a very deliberate move done by capitalists, and the way they were able to do so is via genocide, aka the witch hunts, which is why it's called Caliban the Witch. Now, I actually learned about this argument from Women, Race, and Class. She talks about it a little bit, and I actually agreed with Angela that the patriarchy kind of already existed, and with the introduction of capitalism and private property, it kind of became natural that women role were cemented in the house. Let me tell you what, Sylvia changed my mind. Okay, I fully agree with her now. Reading this book was super eye-opening. I actually never learned about the witch hunts in such intense details before, but listening to how they pushed women into the role that we have today is so obvious how deliberate it was. The history of anti-feudalism was such an interesting read to me because it was talked about quite a bit. While I knew of it, I had not known the details because I am Middle Eastern, so we don't really learn about European history that much, details at least. And it was such an insane thing to read, especially the movement into private property. While I was reading it, I was fully convinced that capitalism was essentially a anti-revolution to the anti-feudalist movement or the anti-feudalist struggle, because it's essentially helped shut it down completely and then kind of provide like a cover, like, hey, we give you some rights, isn't that good? But yeah, like I do genuinely think that it's a counter-revolution. Yeah, it was an insane book. It teaches you so much about history of capitalism and its intersection with women, and how the witch hunts sort of were very much a deliberate move, and it happened over the course of many different times. It happened, for example, during the during slavery in the US. It happened in Europe. It happened in so many different parts of history. So, and it was all with the common goal of controlling women. It was such a good book. I highly recommend. You definitely should check it out. I'm gonna do some really quick honorable mentions. First of all, A Rooms of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. It's an amazing book. I think I'm gonna make like a video about the premise of it and discuss sort of what she's talking about, because I do think it's a very interesting topic. But basically discussing women in fiction and why, at least at that time, it's no longer the case anymore, women rarely were published writers. It's essentially commentary about misogyny and capitalism, so it's a really good book. Next up is the Mirror's Visitors series. I read all of the books except for the last one, but honestly, some of the best like fantasy / romantasy series of modern time. Like seriously, highly recommend. The world building is amazing, the characters are phenomenal, the plot is incredibly good, it's also consistent, and it hooks you right in. It's a slow burn, which I prefer personally, but yeah, it's used to be my favorite genre, but lately like the book series that have been coming out of it have not been my favorite personally, but this one was so good. So yeah, that's all from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about my favorite reads. I would love to hear what are some of the books that you've been reading, and why'd you like them? Should I read them? Let me know down below. I would love to hear about it. Thank you all for watching this video. I will see you all in the next week. Hopefully I would do another episode of the podcast, because hopefully by then I have like a topic that's brewing. I feel like coming on, but I haven't quite reached it yet. You know what I mean? Anyway, please like and subscribe and leave me a little comment down below. I hate to ask, but it helps me a lot. I'll see you all next time. Bye.